This is a TalkStation original podcast.
Today, we're joined by Dr. Stan Riggs, as a name that we've heard numerous times in the news. His area of expertise is coastal geology. As a matter of fact, he's had a great deal of interest and conversations about what's happening in coastal regions of the country, and particularly North Carolina. And he is now the author of a book, or I think it's actually a series of books, and we're going to get into this afternoon. He's joining us from his home, and I welcome him to the program. With that, Dr. Riggs, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are and have been, and I'm not sure, are you still teaching at ECU?
Oh, no. I retired in 2000.
Oh, just yet.
Of the century. I retired with the century.
All right.
And I have been working on the coastal system with my foundation ever since.
Now let's talk about the foundation. I didn't realize there was a foundation that you were working with.
It's called North Carolina Land of Water. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, which has been funded by many, many different organizations to deal with the issues of Eastern North Carolina, dealing with flooding, climate change, sea level rise, all the various other aspects of living out here in the watery world of Eastern North Carolina.
We are experiencing that as we speak. And it's interesting you should bring that up, because there was a meeting just this past week related to the Down East Resilience Network, which is based primarily on how to respond to the changing environment, which it is, of course, as you've noted, changing. But let's talk now about something else that your interest in coastal North Carolina. Let's start with your background. How did you get into coastal marine geology? What led you to this field?
Well, I grew up in the water. I have gills, and the water was from the day I was able to paddle, I've been on the water, and I grew up in the glacial country, which was an interesting scientific area to me. And one of my very first jobs was with the Wisconsin Geological Survey, dealing with glacial deposits. And that led from one aspect of water, the solid ice, to other aspects of rivers and lakes and seas, and finally the ocean and its estuaries. And so it's been a long trip ever since I can remember. When I was too small to remember anything, I was in the water.
Now, your interest in the water, I'm curious also, obviously, the geology associated with that. What's the background there that you got involved in that aspect of it?
Well, geology is the study of the earth and all its resources, and the biggest single resource we have on our planet is water, and it constitutes 71% of the Earth's surface. And if you don't like water, you're in trouble. In fact, water is sort of the center of life. A good share of your body is composed of water. Trees are mostly composed of water. You can't get away from water, and we have to live by it. We have to have it, along with food and energy. Those are pretty much the critical resources.
So we've been talking, then you got into the education side of this. Let's talk about your interest in Eastern North Carolina. What drew you to that region of the country?
Well, I've always been interested in education. I spent a lot of years myself learning through the PhD program. I went to 4 different institutions, and I always was planning on ending up teaching somewhere. When I did my PhD dissertation, I was working in Florida, and it had to do with the continental margin. As part of my PhD dissertation, I was drilling holes, deep holes, looking at the geologic strata on the coastal plain, starting in South Florida. And I drilled all the way up Florida through Georgia, South Carolina. And when I got to South Carolina, I asked the people who were funding my research if it was okay if I moved my family from Florida to North Carolina. And they said, sure. So we moved up here, and I finished this drilling through North Carolina and up into Virginia. When I finished that project, I got a call from East Carolina University, which had just started in 1967. They'd gone from a college to a teacher's college to a full-blown university. The chancellor said, we'd like you to come down and start a marine science program. Well, I thought that was a pretty good deal. So the rest is history. I've been here ever since.
Now, what did you find, and we're going to talk about this in relationship to your efforts in a book, but what did you find attractive and so interesting about coastal North Carolina?
It's an incredibly unique coastal system in the world. It has this vast barrier island system. It's got the incredible continental shelf all sticking out. And if you look at a map, North Carolina sticks way out in the ocean. And we've got these cape structures and these incredible offshore shoal systems that go all the way across the continental shelf. It's got the big estuarine water bodies. It's got incredible rivers coming down off the Appalachians, and it's got wetlands everywhere, and I like wetlands. And so this seemed to be an ideal place. And when I was asked to start a marine science program, the chancellor at that time, Leo Jenkins, handed me a key and said, this is your job. And I said, what's the key for? And he said, it's for a schoolhouse out in Manteo. And that schoolhouse has been given to ECU, and it's no longer needed as a schoolhouse, but your job is to start a marine science program in that schoolhouse. So I moved out to Roanoke Island, spent the first 6 or 7 years living out there. And we'd take our students, our senior biology and geology students, out to Manteo for a semester out there at a time. And it was really nice because nobody back here knew what I was doing, and I didn't have to get anybody's permission in those days. I just did it. And I asked the chancellor if he had a plan, and he said, no, that's why we hired you. I said, well, do you have a budget? No, that's why we hired you. I said, okay, I'm on my own then. He said, yes, go on out and let's get started. And so the Coastal Institute that's out there today is the end product of what I started in 1967.
What is it that so attracted you to the Outer Banks, and particularly in relationship to the book that you've authored?
Well, I spent 60 years working out there, and I think I know it as well as anybody's ever known it. To me, it's world class. This first series of books are about what I consider to be probably the healthiest and most intriguing set of barrier islands in the world. They're unique and they're incredibly healthy and working the way barrier islands are meant to work. And so this is a success story, and I decided to start the book series with a success story. And that's Cape Lookout National Seashore, 4 islands. There's no place else like them in the world.
What is it that's unique about Cape Lookout National Seashore that obviously has caught your attention? And also, I want to talk to you, as if you will, how have you displayed this in your book? What exactly, I understand this is basically a book of photographs as well as information?
Well, it's actually 3 books.
Oh.
And the first book is sort of an introduction and a general overview of the system, how the systems work. And then there's 4 islands, and these 4 islands are as different as you pick 4 people, And the four people will be very different from each other. One will be a female, one will be a male, one will be Caucasian, one will be African, and there's a great diversity in people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, there's a diversity in these islands. Two of the islands are north of Cape Lookout
Right.
and include Portsmouth Island and Core Banks. And then you get down to Cape Lookout itself, which is a whole unique place. And then Shackelford Banks faces the other direction. It faces Onslow Beach, Onslow Bay,
Right.
whereas the other ones are Raleigh Bay. They have different kinds of sediments. They have different kinds of structures that have been built in there. They work different in response to the different kinds of storms. For example, the storms that are out there right now are going to impact the Shackelford section very differently than it will Core Banks and Portsmouth sections. They're not only have different topographies, the topography, the bathymetry. Core Banks, for example, has never really had many people living on it. It's very few. And whereas Portsmouth is a big fat island that sits up there, it was the old 1753 port of entry for the Ocracoke Inlet. And it had the biggest town on the Barrier Islands for a long time in the 1700s and early 1800s. And then you get down to Shackelford. Shackelford is a completely different world. It's a fat island. It's got Native American archaeological sites all over it. Core Banks is brand new. It just keeps turning over.
Mm-hmm.
The Indians probably lived there, but there's no record of them. But there's a good record on Shackelford Banks that goes back 2,500 years.
Wow.
And so, they all have a different kind of history and different appeal. And they face different parts of the ocean, is
Right.
the bottom line.
This is a three-part, you're saying these are three separate publications, three separate books. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
All right.
That's correct.
That's one book. What are the other two, just out of curiosity?
Well, it started out as one book, but it got too big. It ended up way too big. And so the only solution was cut it into three pieces. And so the intro is book one, the general overview of the system. Book two is Portsmouth Island and Core Banks. Book three is Cape Lookout and Shackelford Banks. And there's no repetition from one to the next.
Now, this is the start. Are you going to be doing other books as well?
Yes, there's a series of 10 books. The next four, I lose count.
Right.
But the next four deal with the inner banks.
Okay.
And I picked the Albemarle Peninsula and the Tar Pamlico and the Roanoke Albemarle system. So the next 3-4 books deal with those systems, which are, again, absolutely and totally a different world. And there's not a duplicated word in any of them.
It's interesting, Dr. Riggs, and again, Dr. Stan Riggs with us this afternoon. By the way, what is the title of the books before I go any further? I've got a quick question on that.
Well, every book has its own title because they're independent books. And the first three are the set, but the next ones are on the inner banks are set. And then the final two will deal with the urbanized barrier islands and the continental margin. We're going offshore. And North Carolina, the continental shelf out there used to be part of the coastal plain. And it still is. It just happens to be underwater now. And so sometimes during the glacial periods, the shoreline is off the edge of the continental shelf. And then sometimes during the interglacial periods, when it's warm like we have now, with lots of vegetation, sea levels rising, And pretty soon we may have ECU by the sea here in Greenville.
Doctor, I like that idea, and I'm sure the university would like that as well. Well, although the people that are currently east of East Carolina may not be overly enthusiastic about that. Dr. Stan Riggs with us this afternoon. Dr. Riggs, before we wrap things up, few observations in your efforts here on writing these books. Was there anything that, as you were preparing them, that caught your attention that you may not have acknowledged early on? Was there something, were there any surprises, in other words?
Yeah, the whole book series is a surprise.
Really?
Yeah, because when you're out there for 60 years, you did projects. And each project, you had a team of people, you had a goal, and you go out there and do it. Well, I'm putting them all together now. And so the books not only deal with the geology and the hydrology of the systems, it deals with the cultural history, because it's the natural resources and the dynamics that have dictated the entire history of Eastern North Carolina. Totally. And if you couldn't get there by water, it didn't happen. You couldn't get in and out of the inlets, it didn't happen.
Good point.
And we are a product of the natural dynamics and those resources. Why did the Europeans come here? They came here for the resources. And so how did we harvest those? Well, we didn't do such a good job because we didn't ever think about replanting the longleaf pines ecosystems. We just bled the trees. And same with the fish. We just caught all the fish. We had the world's largest herring fishery up in Coleraine. And it's not even a commercial fish anymore because it doesn't exist. It barely exists. We haven't done such a good job at taking care of our resources. We've got an awful lot of people on a little pile of sand out there in the urbanized barrier islands, and we have all kinds of human disasters. These are not natural disasters, they're human disasters, because we haven't paid attention to how those systems work. And we have to learn to live with those dynamics. And that's what science is all about. How can we do a better job of living with those and preserving the resources that are critical? Water, if we don't have clean water, we're up a creek without a paddle.
Is that basically the takeaway, that you would like the readers to understand and appreciate the necessity to of being good stewards, in other words?
Yes, exactly. It doesn't mean we have to run away from it, but we have to learn a better way of living with it. There are places on a barrier island that you don't want to put a house. There's places in a floodplain you don't want to put a house. So let's not be greedy. Let's get smart and back off just a little bit. Water has power.
That's a fact.
And if you get in its way, the ocean doesn't care.
Dr. Stan Riggs with us this afternoon. Dr. Riggs, as we wrap it up with you, the book is now being published, as I understand it. Will you be making any presentations at any time at this point? Do you have any expectations of that?
Yes, I'm told that we have a signing out at the Corps Museum.
Corps Banks Waterfowl Museum? Yeah.
And I think that's in November.
All right.
I don't remember the date, but you'll be hearing about it.
We will be publicizing it. All right.
Yeah. And there will be other local signings when we get the books in hand.
Okay.
We got to have the books in hand.
All right. Dr. Riggs, I do appreciate your time this afternoon. I look forward to seeing you at the book signing at some point, and I'm sure we'll be talking with you again.
Good deal.
Thank you very much for your time. Again, Dr. Stan Riggs.